will people say? लोग क्या कहेंगे? Had Ekavali Khanna got caught in this societal trap as a single mother in her late 20s, Indian cinema would have missed a gem. Today on Health Shot She Slays, we welcome Ekavali Khanna, a warm and wonderful actor whom you would have seen in projects as diverse as Angrezi Mein Kehte Hain, Bombay Begums and Veere Di Wedding. Her latest is Kohra. Welcome to She Slays, Ekavali.
Thank you. Thank you, Rat.
Thank you for coming. And to begin with, let me first congratulate you for your latest show, Kohra. Let me try and tune my first question to this. You've become, Ekavali, a breaker of stereotype of sorts with each role where we see you, playing so many different characters. Tell us about it.
It's good to know that this is how you feel about my body of work. So, yeah, I agree that, I have been very fortunate in this regard where very different kinds of roles have come to me, very well written roles have come to me. And also I'll give myself some credit for this. I mean, I've also made the right choices. It's not always easy to walk away from work, we are freelancers and many of us think it's very important for us to be in regular circulation and to shoot for X number of days every month. But I've never fallen into that trap. I think I've always just followed my gut and have gone with projects which don't really portray women in a very stereotypical way. And even if the role is small, it's important to me that the role should be impactful and it should be a wholesome experience to explore that character, to become that character, and the whole process of collaboration should be fulfilling. I think those are things that I consider when I decide whether or not I will do a role, and I've been kind to myself. I think those decisions have enabled me to do projects and to be part of films which are path-breaking in some ways.
Right. While we'll come around to the topic of films, Ekavali, let me ask you to rewind a little and, tell us how you began your career in the film industry and, you take us through that journey.
I truly think that it was God who chose this career for me. It's not something that I chose. I'd gone to watch a play and there was Shantanu Bose, who's now the Dean of NSD. He was just sitting right behind me. And he was looking at me. At the end of the show, he came and he offered me a role in a student's film. And that's where one little door opened. At that point in my life, I think I was going through a lot of darkness. I was completely disoriented. I mean, I can't really think of another word. I was trying to put up a brave front because I was going through a separation, and I think the uncertainty about my life had really hit me. I mean, I didn't have a career in place. I had 2 little babies and I was just an English honours graduate. I mean, I was not qualified enough where I could just, walk in with my degree and I'd get a job or something. So everything was very blurred and very uncertain at that point. And I needed something, some little door to open. And I think this student's film that Shantanu offered me was that little door. And that kind of changed my life. And what is very interesting is, when change happens, it happens in big and small ways simultaneously. I think the good thing that I did for myself at that point was that I was willing to embrace that change. I was willing to take a chance. I was willing to some way believe in myself. To even hear something nice sometimes, especially when you are down or low or inconfident, it can have a magical effect. And I think more than anything else, I realized that the best part of my day is between action and cut.
As a young single mother at that point of time, how much harder was it to decide to step out and take up acting, which as it is has preconceived notions? Were you at any point in your life worried about log kya kahenge?
You know, I think ever since I was a little child, I've also been a single child, I've spent a lot of time with myself. And as a result of that, I've always been very tuned into how I am feeling about something and how I'm responding to something. So for me, it was not really a challenge कि लोग क्या कहेंगे. और उसूलन मैंने कभी भी कोई काम कुछ प्रूव करने के लिए नहीं किया. You know, I have to prove it to so and so, or I have to even prove it to myself. I do things that bring me joy, that bring me a sense of fulfillment, and things that I can go home and think about and feel that yesterday was a productive day. Today was an inspiring day. That feeling is very important to me. And in this case also, I think because the acting happened by default and the experience made me feel so good about myself, I just knew that this is what I want to do. And here I'll give some credit to my father. In fact, a lot of credit to my father, because acting is not a stable profession. And you know, I also had to raise 2 children. Most other parents would have perhaps said that, you know, you do something, take up a job, or salwar kameez ka business khol lo, restaurant khol lo, I'll help you. My dad did not say that. He said, yeah, give it a fair shot. I'm sure you'll be able to do something. Feel confident. Feel that. And he said one thing which I think was very important. He said, you're not a trained actor. Work on yourself. Learn. And you will be able to take care of your kids. And I'm also there. I think that reassurance when it comes to a girl when she's going through a divorce or she's going through, you know, I mean, the whole setup is kind of shaken up, right? I mean, you are living in a home with somebody and you're living a certain way, and the whole structure is just gone and you have to restructure your life. तो जो लोग आपको उस restructuring में हिम्मत देते हैं, उनका बहुत बड़ा रोल होता है. And in my case, I think I received a lot of encouragement from a lot of people. But of course, in particular, my father.
That's very interesting that you say that, because that support is extremely, that emotional support at home is extremely important. And coming in a patriarchal society, especially, I think that says a lot about what other men also need to learn.
And I mean, my dad was a single parent. I lost my mother during childbirth. So I was raised by my grandmother, who was also just as progressive. You know, they never told me that, you know, no, you somehow make it work. And if you are suffering and you're in pain, you need to fix that. You can't continue living like that. I think that encouragement and that the way they led me at that point is something which really changed my life. I mean, had my dad said, no, somehow just keep working on it. Just make your marriage work. Everything will be okay. ये तो बहुत आम बात है कि सब कहते हैं कि सब ठीक हो जाएगा. My dad, on the other hand, went to the extent of saying that I don't think things will change. You've gone through your share of suffering, and collect that experience and move forward in life. Create a life for yourself. And it's a very brave thing for a father to say.
Right. Not to invade your privacy in any way, Kavli, just wanted to ask, Kora also beautifully portrays how how feelings of loneliness can erupt in a woman or even in a man's life beyond a certain age. Right. Has that been a personal experience for you, if you're comfortable sharing?
I think as actors, we draw from our personal experiences often. And coincidentally, I would say, this context was relevant to my own life. I've spent many years alone. And I was also a lonely child. I was a single child. And loneliness is very powerful. You know, in many ways, it defines who you are. And it makes you very comfortable with yourself, as it has, I think, in my case. It did in my case. And at the same time, there is a certain sadness. There's a certain craving, I think, that we live with. And many of us, you know, we are not experimental with our lives, especially our personal spaces. So we just, for the longest time, I remember, I was very restrained about the idea of having a partner. And finding a partner can change that. Or finding someone who you admire and feel love for or respect can change that. So I think I have applied subconsciously, perhaps, little parts of my personal life in Indira's role. I think I must have drawn from real life as well. You're right, I'm surprised you asked this question.
I would wonder if you've ever been inundated with questions about your personal life.
All the time. I think it's a very common thing in our industry, of course, but even otherwise. In India, people honestly don't have a sense of boundaries. किससे क्या पूछना है और किस हद तक पूछना है, ये लोग नहीं समझते. And I think for years now, I've dealt with a situation where people without hesitation, people who I'm not even close to, people who I randomly meet, don't hesitate in asking me about my personal life. Like I recall when I used to travel with my kids, it was always me and both the boys, and they were little boys, and invariably, bete papa nahi aaye. And I taught my boys that just be honest and just say that no, our parents are separated and we're traveling, going for a vacation with our mama. उसके बाद उनका सवाल शुरू हो जाते थे कि अच्छा कब हुआ जी आपका डिवोर्स? तो जी बड़ा बुरा हो गया आपके साथ, आप तो जी बड़े अच्छे हो. तो साथ पराठे खिला रहे हैं, अपनी शेयर कर रहे हैं, अपना खाना हमारे साथ शेयर कर रहे हैं, हम अपना खाना उनके साथ. और वो पर्सनल क्वेश्चन पे, एंड इन अ ट्रेन यू आर काइंड ऑफ ट्रैप्ड. You can't say shut up and it's none of your business. You have to somehow be. So I used to find all that very burdensome, to be very honest with you. And even now, I think people are very curious all the time about my personal life and what is the status of my relationship and all that. I don't feel I owe anybody any explanation. And if I ever reach a point where I feel I have any information I would like to share with the world, or I would like to share any joy with the world, I will tell them myself. But this habit of asking personal questions is something I really feel as a society we need to alter that.
Ekavli, also what's interesting is that you didn't exactly begin your career in your early 20s, which is when most actors begin their careers. Plus you live in Kolkata but work in Bollywood. And you also do roles which, like we started with, don't allow you to get stereotyped. Tell me, has showbiz been kind to you with those sorts of choices?
It's an interesting question. So, I think showbiz, the film industry per se, has been good to me. I have had opportunities. I have had some milestones. I've had great experiences, like in terms of the people I've worked with, some of the stories that I've been a part of. It's been solid. It's been good. But if you use the word kindness, I think I am the one who has been the kindest to myself. And that has worked for me to an extent. I mean, life is still full of uncertainty. We are freelancers, and life has its twists and turns and ups and downs. But in that, to find joy, to feel good about the work that you do, to feel fulfilled at work, is something which is of great value.
So when you talk about being kind to yourself, Ekavli, what does that mean?
I think I center every decision that I make, every step that I take, all my actions around my well-being. And I don't fall into the trap of a rat race, or I don't subject myself to unnecessary competition or unnecessary complications. I mean, these days being a person in public domain comes at a cost. You constantly need to be in circulation, you need to be super active on social media. There are 1,001 things. The choices that I've made have always been centered about my feeling peaceful and productive, and my feeling inspired. And I think that is something which has kind of worked out for me, I'd say.
In the larger scenario, it's not just about the film industry, but in the larger scheme of things, women have always sort of been seen as having a shelf life. Now that has changed. What's your opinion on it?
It's changed. Of course, there will always be stories and there will always be mainstream films where younger people are more significant in a story. There will be those kind of stories. But there are also many, many stories now which are centered around women who are in their mid-40s or even later. And it's quality stuff. I mean, it's not just... पहले तो ज़्यादातर एक माँ का रोल ही मिलता था, I think after you're 40. That's not true at all any longer. And I think we also have OTT to thank for that. And the filmmakers and the bright writers. How can we forget them? I mean, I'm so thankful to them because... and I think a brilliant example is Quora itself right now. It's a male-centric show. The protagonists are two men. But... as the critics are saying and as everyone else is saying, they have done justice to the female characters as well, irrespective of their screen time. So that is a huge shift. And it's having a ripple effect, like it's affecting everybody. People are wanting to tell good stories and focus on the women as much as they focus on the men. And that's commendable.
You've also done an intimate scene this time. What is your thought process and what are some of the questions an actor like you would ask before saying yes to an intimate scene?
I think speaking specifically of this scene in Quora, it's not even a full scene. It's just an intimate moment of vulnerability between two characters. So when I was told that I have to, there is this moment in the scene, I think the first thing that came to my mind was how significant it is to the story. How important is it? What is the purpose of that intimacy that is going to be shown? Does it in any way enhance the chemistry between two characters? Does it take the story forward? And I think the second thing that really matters when you are approaching an intimate scene or you are saying yes to doing an intimate scene in a show or a film is who are the makers. Some directors just don't care. उनको ऐसा लगता है कि प्रोफेशनल एक्टर हैं, इनको पैसे किस चीज़ के मिल रहे हैं, कर लेंगे. And there are some directors who are just very responsible and sensitive. And they come to you, they explain it to you, they tell you why it's important, why they would like it a certain way. And in this particular case, I can say that my director, Randeep, he came to me and he explained everything. And then he said, Ekavli, even if for a second you feel uncomfortable, just look at me and we'll stop. And that reassurance is something that gives you confidence and conviction.
A very interesting study has come out by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, which has recommended that Hindi cinema should have more women initiating sexual intimacy or give consent, be it in the world of films or otherwise. Ekavli, what's your thought on this?
I agree actually. I think it's important because especially Indian women, it's not the same with cinema in the West. They're very unbiased in these matters. But in Indian cinema in particular, feeling shy or resisting it or not expressing your own desire, there are very few films which in the past at least have been made around subjects like these where the focus is on what the woman wants or whether she doesn't want something. It's important to tell these stories too and to have this perspective in cinema, and I'm glad that now a study has kind of validated this. And people are doing it, right? I mean, if you look at the recent work, especially on OTT, women are, and of course sometimes, they overdo it also, which destroys the value of this kind of storytelling. You will see so many shows where it is almost forced. A woman's desire, a woman's needs, it's about gender equality also. It has to be organic, it has to be truthful. The idea is to tell the truth in cinema. The idea is not to just underline points. There's no show and tell should not be the motto. So I think in an organic way, being true to the story, if women and their desires and they taking the lead is needed in a show or in a script, it should be incorporated.
In an industry where the lines between the personal and professional line often tend to get blurred, how do you maintain the balance for yourself?
I think having these boundaries in my life has given me confidence, has given me a sense of security. And I feel it's something that I owe to myself. My personal life, my personal space is not in any way relevant to how my audience perceives me. I do not like to use my personal life for mileage. I mean, on principle, it just seems wrong to me. And yes, your personal life is a very important part of your life. It's a very important aspect of your life. It's an important aspect of your well-being. But having said that, मोहब्बत की नुमाइश करना ज़रूरी नहीं है. You know, if you have a beautiful relationship in your life, you have a partner, you have someone who loves you and cares about you, it's personal. It's not something that the world needs to know. And unfortunately these days, I feel, especially because of pressures from the social media, just about everyone who's on social media, and especially if they are in public domain, they have kind of made it a practice to make their life so public. And people are doing things with their partners, like making some reels and some so-called trending reels, which to me, I'm not judging them, they're free to do what they want. But to me, almost come across as vulgar and disrespectful, to say the least. I mean, वो sexist jokes or वो जो मियाँ बीवी का banter होता है, they're almost humiliating each other. I just don't understand how can that be entertainment.
You just spoke about social media, Ekavali. What I want to know is that how do you keep yourself away from the pressure of being on social media, putting your life out there, especially when actors today are expected to be tuned in or connect with the audience from that medium?
मेरी जिंदगी का मकसद फॉलोअर्स को मजा देना नहीं. मेरा मकसद है जिंदगी के मजे लेना. So when I'm on a vacation or I'm spending time with my loved one, I want it to be real. I want it to be absolutely wholesome. I don't want it to be centric to what I'm going to post. When I'm on a beach and having a great time, it is my time with nature. To see that sunset is just so beautiful. I don't always need to share it with my followers. It's not necessary.
Right. So you keep yourself disconnected from social media, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I want to enjoy my social media, right? I don't want it to be a pressure. So social media for me is not something, I mean, if it means that yes, I'm not making money out of it, it's fine. But I'm not willing to make money at the expense of making a fool of myself, not in the eyes of others, but at least in my own eyes.
Right. So not conforming to the social media norms of the industry, Ekavali. My next question is about how being in this industry, this competitive industry, is so much about riding the waves of success, failure, expectations. How do you wade through? What is your mantra to wade through the stress?
I think the life that I've had, the experiences that I've had, and at this age is a good thing, let me tell you. I don't take anything too seriously. कि बहुत तारीफ हो रही है, बहुत अच्छी बात है. But like for example, Kohara, I've garnered more appreciation than what I expected. But I'm not going to now just completely soak in that 24/7. I have to also look at my next project. I have to prepare for it. I have to get some repair work done at home. I have to get an affidavit made. I mean, I'm just saying, these are these little things. Life's busy work. It's also very much a part of my existence. So I'm not, totally controlled by these things.
Not consumed by showbiz.
Part of my existence, a very important part of my existence. It defines my personality to a great extent. but it is not my whole life. My whole life is also sitting with a cup of Darjeeling tea in my balcony. And these days it's also watching Sunil Chhetri play football. I think he's a remarkable sportsman. I mean, so dignified, his humility and the way he plays his game. मुझे बहुत मजा आता है देख के. So मैं वो देखती हूँ. I enjoy spending time with my loved ones. I love traveling. I travel whenever I can.
It has been wonderful chatting with you, Ekavli.
Likewise.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being on She's Days and sharing your journey and
It's such
thoughts
an amazing
with us.
platform. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So that was Ekavli Khanna for you. For more such conversations, stay tuned to Health Shots.